Hey, everybody.
Hey,
Welcome back to the show. Hope everybody's doing good tonight. Um, Zeke, he got on early this evening. He may have thought it was coming on at an hour earlier than it was, but um, how's Dan doing today?
I'm alive.
That's good. You've been out scouting a little bit. It seems like you found some sheds.
Yeah, I'm trying to get in as much as I can. I got a lot of stuff I got to look at,
Hmm.
and I do have some people that want me to look at their farms. So
Yeah.
I know I won't get to everybody, but I'd like to do some of that. So I'm just trying to manage my time a little better and get out as much as possible. I mean, we got got workshops this weekend. 2 weekends ago, I had workshops, and next month we got 2 weekends that are booked up with shows and seminars.
Yep.
So you only got so many weekends, so much time. So ain't no different than anybody else. I got to utilize the time I have.
Yeah, I know it. I was thinking about how fast the spring's going to go, and kind of like everything I want to do this spring or get to, and then it's like a month of weekends are going to be gone.
Yeah,
Um, and then we're going on vacation in into February, so in
yeah.
couple weeks.
I
Well,
find
first
myself
of the year.
like when I'm out scouting, wanting to go check out something that like and see what's going on in some area or something. And I got to tell myself sometimes that you know what, I'm not going to go over there and hunt, and I'm not, you know, what I
Mm.
get from over there really doesn't matter. I'm just curious. I
Yep.
need to concentrate on what's going to try
Oh,
and.
Dan, I had this. I was talking to Gary today. I had this exact same conversation with him. I went scouting. I went scouting today in Charlie Swamp,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and it's just like I just went there because I'm like, oh, I was curious more. I'm like, I'm probably not going to come here. I don't. I might, but I usually don't. If it's unless I'm, you know, hear of something big in there or something. Um, I mean, the only thing I don't want to say too much because it'll give away exactly where I'm at. But I may have a chance to hunt in there. I'll put it that way. Uh, so there could be some benefit to going in there. But I was driving out there today, and I thought, why am I going out here? Why don't I go somewhere where I know of a big buck that I want to chase after and kind of educate myself on that instead of you
Hmm.
know fumbling around through the briars. But oh well, it's I actually
I
found
think that's
something
easy.
good.
I
So
don't think I'm the only one. That's kind of why I mentioned that. I bet you other people do the same thing. I mean,
yeah,
you have a wood lot they haven't looked at or something, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to go over there and look." Or they get
yeah,
the biggest thing I think people do is they get in the mindset of wanting to find sheds. Then they go out scouring fields and stuff, and you only got so much time.
yeah.
And personally, I would rather have a real good lead on killing a buck than having an antler sitting on a shelf.
Yeah. Um, it's funny you say that because in this particular area, there's some off limit areas where you can't hunt. And obviously, there's big deer living in there. Like,
Mhm.
you're not allowed to hunt in there at all, but you can walk through there. And when I drove by that area tonight or this afternoon, there was like 5 or 6 trucks parked around there. Everybody, I'm like, they're probably shed hunting. Yeah. And that place actually kind of promotes shed hunting. Like, it'll put a social media post about, oh, the deer are shedding their antlers. Come look for them. There's constantly people in and out of that no hunting zone.
Yeah,
And I'm
and you know, a lot of my success, a lot of it has come from spring scouting.
yeah.
So you know, the next fall you kill that deer after you learn them in the spring. And these guys
Hmm.
are wasting their springs.
Yeah. I'd like to get a I'd like to get a dog that finds sheds that can just follow me around while I'm scouting, and he look for sheds while I'm actually scouting. That way you kill two birds with one stone. I think that'd be fun. I don't really know how that those shed dogs work per se. I've never actually had one that
Yeah, I've been
do.
out with a shed dog, and they can be pretty. If they're trained properly, they can be pretty cool. I got a video somewhere on the beast of one. The guy was training it. I was with him, and we saw an antler out in the field, a big antler.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
very quickly managed property. Every 20 feet, you saw a shed antler. So
Yeah.
you know, but anywho, we saw this big shed, you know, laying out in this grass field where the grass is laying out. You see the points sticking out.
Hmm.
So he takes the dog downwind by about 50 yards, and his little code is find the bone, you know, and,
Yeah.
and he's walking. And that dog starts sniffing the air, turns and runs to that shed and picks it up and runs to him with the shed. and I couldn't believe it. The shed was off of a deer that he killed that year. It was a shed from the year before.
Oh,
So it'd been laying out there for a year, and that dog could
still
smell it 50 yards downwind.
Gosh.
Unbelievable. He went to another spot and he started digging in the dirt and dug up a skull that was under the dirt for who knows how long on a riverbank where flooding had moved dirt around.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're insane how they can smell.
Oh my gosh. I was
that dog was actually smelling antlers from 40, 50 yards, stopping, smelling the wind and running.
Gosh, that'd be awesome for in the marshes and swamps for you guys. Cause who knows how many antlers get buried in that stuff, where you couldn't physically. I mean,
well, those cattails, you can walk over the top of them, you can't see them.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of guys, you look at all those really big ones I'm getting on film and stuff, and nobody ever finds the shed antlers. They're laying out there, cattails buried under the muck somewhere.
Right. Yeah, they probably work their way down into the muck and then they're gone forever.
Every now and then we'll find a big one out there. You'll be walking on one of them old trails and you'll feel something under your foot and want to roll out of the mud. And they'll be black from being under that mud for years and years and years. And you wonder how long it was laying there,
Yeah. I've heard, I can't remember who was talking about it. They said they drained a pond and there was a bunch of shed antlers in the pond on a farm, like on a somebody's farm or something. They drained it. I don't know if the deer had been, if they get drinks out of the pond or something and they drop their antlers in there over the years and they get preserved, essentially under that water.
I've seen a lot of deer go into swamps and into shallow ponds and eat the water plant.
Yeah, that could have been what they're doing too. I think a lot of the deer still have their antlers.
Freeze.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are still holding right now here. It can be into March before they start dropping, they're all dropped here. But
me and Eric were out scouting. We went to that spot where I shot that buck in the spine.
Yeah,
yeah. I wanted to really look at where that buck came from, find his bedding area, follow it back, maybe see if there's a better tree to be in, see if there's some other setups, and fine tune that area so I had it covered. And we covered that whole area and found the best setups. And then we went to leave and we went out the back way. And we got to 40 yards from the parking lot, right alongside the road. 40 yards from the road, 40 yards from the parking lot, probably even to each in open grass.
Yeah.
And there's a matched set of sheds laying right there in plain sight of the parking lot, plain sight of the road. If you would have just looked at it over there driving by, you'd see them. Or if you got out of the truck and looked that way, that the hiking trail go back onto the public goes a different way.
Yeah.
So nobody ever really walks that way because you're just walking along the road, in grass.
Yeah. Right.
But where they laid. I have to wonder if the buck actually laid there and dropped them or something. It's odd that they dropped in the same spot. Unless he shook them off, like when they got, one gets wobbly and they shake their head.
Yeah.
I've seen video of that where people caught it on trail cam and they shake both of them off.
It almost is like it freaks them out whenever it falls off and they just shake the other one off real quick.
Well, yeah, you think about how off balance you feel.
Yeah, it'd probably feel real awkward to them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or that their shed antler hits them in the back or something and it spooks them and then they, jump or something and the other one falls
when your
off.
Tooth falls out, you shake your head and it
right. Yeah.
Same thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it looked like a cool, kind of cool set too. It looked like a young deer, but it had some good mass or something.
Yeah, it looked like it might only be a 2-year-old. I was kind of looking at it, and I'm not sure. It might be a nice 2-year-old or a very small 3-year-old, one or the other. Yeah. I'm leaning towards it's a nice 2-year-old. I do got some trail cam pics of that buck too.
Oh, cool.
And I think that is a 2-year-old based on those pictures as well. But it's got good brows. Usually the 2-year-olds, that's the big factor is they don't get much for brows, and that thing has some pretty big brows.
It might be to blow up.
But a lot of mass. I bet you he's going to blow up this year.
That's what. Yeah, it looked like just a little compact, massive little thing.
Yeah.
I found one nice shed. That's the only thing I found that's fresh this year. I found 2 other old ones, but
the ones I found were it snowed like a week ago. They were under the snow. So there's not much snow laying there.
Yeah.
But they're under snow. So they're there at least a week laying in that spot. Probably much longer than that. the pedicles were dry, so it probably shed like a couple weeks ago there.
Yeah, that fresh one I found, the pedicles they still have blood in them. So, and the little oil that's on there, on the top there too was still there. So it was super fresh. Like it may have dropped the day before or something.
My son's got a better way of shed antler hunting.
Oh yeah, what's that?
Yeah, he's living with me again now. James is.
Yeah.
He just comes home 90 miles an hour and bounces off of them and tries to knock the sheds off.
Oh no.
I'm like, dude, you need to slow down on our road. Got a new thing in his vehicle. This isn't the city. I mean, there's deer like a video game.
Oh man.
So he hit one in front of our house the other day.
It looked like I found a deadhead today out scouting, and it was just like the bases came out and they were both broken off, and it's right next to the highway. I have a feeling that deer probably got hit on the road and just kind of probably
then
ran 50,
went off 50. There and died.
Yeah, because there's no way that the way they were broken, it's nothing. I don't think a deer would have broken it off like that.
There's been a couple times in my life when I've hit deer so hard you can't believe they get up and run away, but you got to know they died someplace.
Yeah,
I mean, the one I hit in Indiana during the Public Land Challenge.
Yeah,
man, that thing took an impact and it rolled up the road. I could not believe it when I got out. It was just laying there like flinching.
Yeah,
I walked up and all of a sudden just came back to life like the Terminator and crawled up the hill where it came from and took off. I was like, wow.
Yeah, this one didn't make it very far. It was just like 50 yards off the highway. And like I said, it was all busted up. The antlers were busted off of it. I didn't look for the antlers. They were probably up by the highway, but found some good stuff though. I'm kind of excited about that spot. Give me a good spot to go to if I, or I'm struggling or something. I'll go in there, give it a shot.
Go in there, first 130, and then I'll go after that giant you're on.
All right. It could happen. I'm going next week. I'm going to a local bowyer that a guy that makes longbows. Yeah. He's gonna give me like a crash course on how to make a laminate bow, like not a self bow.
Nice.
But I think I said next week. I meant this week, Wednesday. We're gonna do that. As long as he's available still. He said he's gonna call me tomorrow, but I'm pretty excited about that. He's just gonna kind of teach me how to build a proper bow, or not a proper bow, a laminate bow, like you'd see, like Bear Archery makes them and stuff. I'm pretty
technical, but if you want to come over here, I'll show you how to throw rocks at them.
Okay. Yep. Maybe we'll video that. I was gonna video it a little bit just to give him a little love on YouTube because he's doing me a favor.
That'd be cool. I think people would like that. Yeah.
Yeah. His company's Timberhawk Bows. They're just here local, just down the road from me in the next county over in Lawrence County. Super good guy. I think he's been building bows since the early 90s, so he's been doing it a long time. Anyway, do you still have that Tide Wee bow that they sent you that one time?
Yeah, I do.
Recurve.
Yep.
You ought to. We ought to set. I have a recurve that's set up for bow fishing. We ought to do that sometime. Yeah. In the summertime, if we ever have.
I got some really good bow fishing up here, and it's fun. It's the kind of stuff you like to watch. I mean, I hate watching people sitting on a boat floating around drinking beer, flying arrows. Right. With the token girl dressed in a bikini so that they get people to watch.
Right.
But what I do like is jumping into these swamps and stuff.
Yeah.
Going in after them. It's really cool. They run into you and stuff, and you have to chase them around. It's pretty cool. You got to watch making a wake.
Are they carp? Is that what you're shooting?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's a video. Don't you guys have a video you and Mario doing that?
Yeah, I got a ton of footage I never even published of that stuff, and some really cool stuff.
Yeah. I think it'd be at least something to do in the summertime. We get I've never done it here at all, and my dad used to when he was younger. When the river gets out, and I live on the White River, and when the river gets out, it floods the bottoms, and some of the farmers will let you go out there in the fields when they're flooded and wait around and shoot the carp that are, essentially locked in there.
I got footage of spearing them, shooting them with a slingshot with an arrow, and shooting them with
Mhm.
bows, hand catching them, and all kinds of
Yeah.
crazy. One time we went fishing, and we got to this. There's this big dam, and we saw these carp swimming up the dam.
Yeah.
And, carp are an invasive species, and they want to get rid of them.
Right.
So
Right.
I went over there and started catching some, and my wife was taking pictures and stuff, and I was throwing them up on the shore and stuff. And then we leave, and everybody was laughing. I was hand catching them, diving onto things as they were trying to swim away into shallow water. And I posted some pictures about it, and I got hell. I even got contacted by a game warden. It's illegal.
Really?
I didn't get no fines or anything. They just said, knock it off. You can't do that. You can't fish that close to a dam. I'm like, I'm not fishing. I was catching carp. And they're like, doesn't matter. It's
It's
carp's
fishing.
a fish. I'm like, really? Jeez. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
You gotta be careful with everything nowadays. I mean, especially when we're in public view.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's illegal to bowfish carp, right? I mean, that's not.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, I know it is around here, but
yeah, you can bowfish them, you can spear them, you can hand catch them, you can do whatever you want. Just don't do it when they're by a dam.
Got it.
Yeah.
I know. Crap. What was I going to say? It must be some type of is it some spear season up there on the frozen lakes right now?
Yeah, they're spearing sturgeons up here right now.
Okay. I've seen a bunch of that on social media.
I think Tyler's been out. No,
Yeah.
no, it wasn't Tyler. Who was out? Tyler was out there
Jacob, maybe.
walleye fishing, and somebody I know was up there spearing.
Maybe Jacob.
Yeah, that's probably who it was, Jacob. Yeah.
I
don't think he was doing much spearing. I think he was more staring at a hole waiting for one.
Yeah.
In Michigan, they could spear northern pike.
Yes, that's what Lou was saying.
They could really rewrite the whole thing with fishing if they let you shoot game fish with a bow.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people cringing when I say that, but what if they had a limit and they gave you tags? Like you got 2 bass tags, 2 northern tags,
Yeah.
And you could just do that every here and there. I mean, that'd be kind of cool if you could just shoot 1 or 2 game fish. I think it would make that a whole viable sport that people would love if they could do that.
Yeah. Maybe so.
I don't know. People could be pretty pissed off when you shoot some, 40-inch breeder northern. No, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think
it'll happen when you catch them on hook and line too. Even when you let them go, people just don't like to admit it.
I think it's a awfully high percentage of fish that you let go end up dying.
I think so too.
Especially specific species. I don't know what it was, but there was an episode of Meat Eater where they had like a fish expert on, and they were talking about that. Like a lot of fish don't make it after you've hooked them and put them all underneath all that stress.
The guys that really understand it are really careful about how they hook them, how they release them, and how they net them. Because even netting one can kill one. When you take the slime off, and scrape them.
Mm-hmm. Even like the way you like submerge them in the water when you let them go. I know I know bass. I think like largemouth bass. I think they're pretty resilient. I don't think they die. I mean, I think unless you bury the hook in them or something. I don't know. I think that there's obviously people as passionate about fishing as we are about hunting, though. So they probably wouldn't be real happy about us stupid deer hunters going in there with our bow and arrows and shooting their fish.
I'm carp fishing in the river out here. I see giant northerns all the time just swim by me. It's like, oh.
You can catch them, right? I mean, or is there a certain time
fish? Yeah, you can hook and line fish them. Usually up the river here, they close it for until opening day of lake fishing because they breed up there.
Yeah.
And that's why there's so many big ones in there. But every now and then when you have a cold spring, which we are not having this year, they're still up there on opening day. Sometimes for the first few days of the season, you can get some big northerns in there. But after that, and the water's got to be high too because it's just a little creek.
Yeah. That's something in Indiana we don't. I mean, we're not really known for fishing unless you're like a crappie fisherman or bluegill fisherman. We just don't have all the cool things like you guys have up there.
No.
We don't have pike we do, but not like you guys do.
Yeah, you get out in the country, you can cast spinners in just about any river. You get northerns.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't. We have some pike in some of our lakes, but it's not. You're not you're not catching them often. But me and my grandpa used to do a lot of crappie fishing. That was always fun. I think if I had got back into fishing, I'd just crappie fish all the time.
You
They're good to
know,
eat too.
when I grew up, there was this little ditch of a creek that called the Fox River. It
Mm-hmm.
started out in Lannon, kind of Lannon, Menominee Falls, and flowed down into Waukesha. And
Mm-hmm.
in Waukesha, it's real big and deep, and there's a lot of northerns in there. So when it would get warm out and that water gets stagnant down there,
Mm-hmm.
they would come upstream and they would sit in that shallow creek in this small shallow water. And as a kid, I used to ride my bicycle. It was like 10 miles or maybe even more than that. It might have been like 15, 20. It'd take you half the day to get there on my bicycle. And I go up there with a fishing rod and catch some northerns.
Yeah.
And I did that all the way up until I was a young adult. Then I just quit going there. And now it's all no trespassing and all that stuff,
Right.
change. But when I first met Carol and started doing things with her, I took her up there fishing one time, and we were catching northerns and letting them go. And I was using shiners, and I ran out of shiners, and I had some night crawlers. I had a night crawler on the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
and I caught this really big sucker on a night crawler.
Yeah.
And the sucker was like 14 inches long. And I thought, well, my dad always told me, a northern can eat something twice its size. So, I know there's northerns in there 30 inches long.
Yeah.
So I hooked the sucker on, put a giant bobber on and a steel leader. And I threw that thing out. There's this dogwood that grew into the water, had a shelf underneath it. And there's like a hole there. And that's where the northerns sat. But we had pretty much thought we had caught all the northerns out because you catch them like in the first half an hour you're fishing.
Right.
Well, what the hell? I caught this sucker.
Yeah.
I put it on, put it out there. And it kept pulling this bobber completely under the water and come back up. So then these cars would come by and see a fish in there, and they would stop and, what are you catching? What's in here? They'd get all nosy, trying to zone in on you. And you try to be quiet and not tell them what you're catching, because if they find out it's full of northerns, then we get crowded and they catch everything out on you. I mean, it ain't much water there. So this guy pulls up, and like probably 40s or something, and I'm like 17 or 18, right? And he comes walking over. He goes, "What are you catching?" It's nothing. Is there anything in here? Not much. Well, what are you fishing? I don't know. There's carp and stuff in here. What do you catch? Nothing. Oh, you got one on? I go, nah, there's nothing on here. No, your bobber went under. That's my bait. He goes, your bait did not pull that under. That bobber is huge. You got something on there. This is my bait. And at the same time, the sucker's swimming into that dogwood and it's going to get tangled.
Yeah.
So I got to pull it out. So I start reeling it in, and I pull it, and the guy wouldn't leave. He just stand there staring at us. So I pull up this big sucker and I throw it back in there. And this creek is literally 15 feet across, maybe less than that. There's just a deep hole there, and otherwise it's just a little ditch,
Yeah.
So this guy just starts laughing his ass off at me. He's laughing, he's making fun of me. You think there's a fish? And I'm all embarrassed because I'm with my girlfriend,
Right.
I throw it back out there and I just stare at the bobber, and I'm just making believe like he ain't there, just ignoring him so he leaves. And he just won't shut up. And then finally he gets in his car and he's leaving, and I'm watching him go, and I'm watching his taillights go, and I turn around and my bobber's gone. Look, and all of a sudden all these bubbles start coming up, and I see the bobber zooming around in that hole way underwater.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy crap. And even though it would have killed my spot, I'd love that guy to see that.
Yeah.
I reeled that thing till it hit the bobber and set the hook. And that's the biggest northern I ever caught. I had that thing on for like 15 minutes. It went down that creek, that ditch, to the point where it was going to get where the creek turned and there was like a deadfall tree in the water, and it was going to break my line. And I had like that's another thing the guy was laughing about. I had this like salmon rod with like 30-pound test on it,
Yeah.
It was pulling drag and I couldn't stop it. And eventually it was going to get under that tree. I grabbed the spool and manually stopped it. Figured, well, if it breaks the line, it's going to break it anyways if it gets in the trees.
Yeah.
And I was able to just turn it around and drag it back. And we ended up catching that thing. And I forget what it was, but it was high 40s inch wise. and I mean, it was big around like a log. It was a pretty cool catch. It was the biggest northern I ever caught, and that ditch was like 15 feet across.
Had a good honey hole there. Yeah, I don't have any cool fishing stories like that. It's always just like, caught me a 13-inch crappie today, you know.
I'd still be fishing if they had antlers.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
the trouble is when you fish. I mean, right now, you know, it's probably good fishing right now, and I'm, you know, now I got to get my scouting, and I got this and I got that. You got to, you know, it's just my life revolves around deer.
Yep. Same with me. If Huck likes fishing, I'll probably take him a little, you know, as much.
And that's what I did with my kids. I took them out.
Yeah,
I think it's a good experience.
Yeah, it's a good way to get kids outside. They like that feedback from catching a fish. You know, seems like no matter who you are, like people like catching fish. You know,
they need to be in touch with reality and with life and death and where their food comes from. So they need to fish. They need to hunt. You need to teach them all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I took my kids squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting, pheasant hunting, even though I didn't have much interest in cleaning and eating squirrels and rabbits. I did that my whole childhood and didn't really care for it. But I did it with my kids because I wanted them to learn how to do it and know how to do it.
Yeah. Yep. That's another thing is I get pretty tired of cleaning fish pretty quick.
Mm-hmm. But you know, even if your kids don't hunt or fish and they don't get into it, that experience helps them to understand why people do.
Yeah.
And helps them to see it as a viable sport. Kids that grow up in the cities and stuff with none of that, those end up, you know, in a lot of cases being your anti-hunters, your people who just don't understand why you would do something like that to a poor innocent fish, or, you know, really, that's where that comes from.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's definitely something I'm obviously going to introduce to Huck, but if he likes it, he does, and if he doesn't, that's fine too. But he'll understand it, that's for sure. Or you know, he said I'll expose it to him so he has a chance to decide for himself. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, you want to get into hunting now instead of fishing? We've been talking about fishing for 30 minutes.
That's probably a good idea.
Tyler, Tyler invited me up to go ice fishing with him, and I'm probably not going to get to, but I'd like to do that sometime.
Well, hell, there's ice all over the place up here. It ain't hard to catch.
Oh, oh my gosh. Yeah. I went ice fishing one time, and I'll be honest with you, didn't really enjoy it that much. We didn't have anything fancy. We just had an auger and a good
Tyler's a hell of a fisherman. I mean, he gets into walleyes and stuff. I mean, he wouldn't be a bad guy to go with.
Yeah, I will one year. Just this year was busy. I couldn't take a weekend to drive up there and do it.
I tried really hard to get him to get me some bowfishing footage. He was shooting them out of kayaks and stuff. Really cool stuff. But
yeah,
I couldn't get him to film any of that. But he gets into some cool shit.
Yeah, that's all right. He gets into everything. Turkeys, deer. He's a very good sportsman, outdoorsman.
Yeah, he's a wild man.
Mm-hmm. All right. One thing before we start.
This weekend. So he's going to come on hang out.
Oh, Tyler. Good. Cool. Mm-hmm. Cool. I'll be there too. That's going to be fun. I'm kind of looking forward to it. Eric's going to come too, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So most of us will be there. I don't think Tim's going to make it, but he was there last weekend, wasn't he?
He's not coming?
I thought he said he wasn't going to come that this weekend.
He might not. I don't know. I thought he was.
I don't know. I could be wrong too. I just seemed like that's what he said. One thing before we start here on our topic, I got a public land cleanup that I found online to just announce on the 18th of February. If you guys are in Wichita, Kansas, they got a BHA has a Pawnee Prairie Packout's what it's called. So at the city park there in Pawnee Prairie, they're going to have a public land cleanup on the 18th. I don't know how many people from Kansas we have on, but especially Wichita, Kansas. But if you're in the area, and not doing anything Saturday, there's a cleanup going on. All right. This show is kind of going to be us talking about like my season and hunting out of state and kind of how I kind of figured out how to be successful this year hunting out of state. Um, I I think I was, and Dan kind of just like interject anytime you feel like you want to say something. But one thing that I got either A, lucky with, or B, just kind of figured out this year was I was thinking about my deer that I killed out of state, and I saw every single one of those deer like either the day of or the day before I shot them.
That's huge.
Yeah. And I was just thinking about how that's kind of crazy, like to think about the Nebraska buck. I saw the night before walking out. I was walking out of the woods to come do one of these shows, and I jumped him doing some scouting kind of by the road before I went to the vehicle to go to McDonald's to do the show. And then I ended up sitting on him that next evening and killing him. And then the Wisconsin buck I shot out of state, we saw him driving home. He was out in front of our headlights the evening before I shot him. And then my Ohio buck, I was scouting to a new area, and I got to almost where my pin was, and he was walking through the woods with another buck. You know, they're essentially, the other buck was chasing him around. There was a hot doe right there, and then they went off, and I set up and shot him that evening.
You went up and got right on the trail where he was moving?
Yep. I was, if you can imagine, like I'm down at the bottom of in a hub or down the ridge, and I looked up, and my buck was, the buck I shot was walking kind of kind of the opposite direction of me, and then another buck came and he was chasing him around, and they ended up running down to me. And I mean, they were too far, too thick for me to shoot. And then they both followed each other back into there's a clear cut up there, and they went into a specific spot on the clear cut. And then I just kind of set up there on that spot. Cause a lot of times in the clear cuts that are thick, there's only kind of a couple of ways they go in and out of those things a lot of times. At least for convenience sake for them, they obviously can go through them anywhere if they need to, but there was some like,
but unpressured, they use the same trails over and over again.
Yeah. There were some obvious areas where they could go in and out without having to fight with the brush with their antlers and stuff. But anyway, and I think the reason that I was so successful is I think a lot of people on out of state trips, sometimes they get it turns into more of a camping trip for them, or they hang around camp for half the day. And I was very adamant about, like, if I'm here, I'm going to be out in the woods, either scouting or glassing or doing something, maybe it's not hunting, I didn't set very many mornings other than Ohio, but that was just because it was the middle of the rut and the deer were going crazy. I don't know. Do you think, you see that when you've been in a lot of deer camps over the years now? Do you see that very often?
Yeah, I'm not guilty of that at all. I want to get away from people and I want to be alone.
Yeah.
I do my best alone.
Mm-hmm.
But filming wise, I always like to have somebody around. You work with people, work with groups and stuff. And I think a lot of times those groups and stuff, even though that's great for us because it helps out the show, it gets a lot of good footage, it gets different tactics and stuff involved, and people learn a lot more.
Yeah.
From a personal standpoint, I think it hurts me a little bit because I'd be in camp a lot less. I'd be answering texts a lot less, things like that, helping other people. I mean, you've seen it. I mean, even you've been involved in that where you got to stop and help somebody. And there's like, it was kind of a relief at the Battle of the Bows when you got your buck, because then you could help
whoever
with the other people, and I could actually hunt. I think
sure.
When you were describing those bucks, I was thinking about that, and I think that I would have probably killed each one of those in the same scenario the same way you did, except for one. The one in the Battle of the Bows where I was with you when that thing crossed the road. I didn't think there was a chance in hell of catching that buck. So I learned a little bit. And the thing is, really, if I would have did what you did, and I would have stopped and studied the maps and looked at that oxbow and stuff, it did kind of come together, and I just blew that off.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you killed that, because it made me take a look in the mirror on that same situation.
Yeah. And I mean, my knee jerk reaction was the same as yours when we saw that buck in the field, because he was actually in a private field, and like on that private field there was a big woods back there, and it looked like there's probably deer in there. You know, I kind of just assumed, oh, he came out of that woods and ran across.
And in the
field,
dark, I didn't see how far that woods was away, and I thought it was a lot closer.
Yeah,
after we shot the buck and we went back there, and I was looking at it, I was like, holy crap, that buck did not walk all that ways from that woods. He did come from that field, come across like you thought he did.
Yeah.
Now, did you? I mean, I remember you in the truck distinctly saying that I'm going to kill that buck tomorrow, and
maybe I don't remember,
but I would have to think that it was really coming together for you more when you started studying the maps on Onyx and your phone and stuff, and looking at how it laid out, and probably looking at how far away that woods is. And I didn't even give a second thought to look at that stuff, because I just assumed it was laid out in a way that I couldn't hunt it, because it was coming out of the private woods into a private field.
Right.
Literally, it was coming from the other way, and you figured that out, and I didn't.
Yeah. And what tipped me off, like whenever I went back the next day, I parked there, and I just real quick ran down without my bow or my stand or anything. I just ran down to kind of where the river bottom and there was another like just grass field that you had to walk through to get down to the river bottom. And when I got to the river bottom, right away, I started seeing big buck sign where there was big rubs and stuff. I'm like, okay, yeah, that, he's down here somewhere. And then, I'd already looked at the map to see that those oxbows kind of coming together. And when I got down there in the oxbow, there was even more, more sign that kind of solidified that he was living down there.
Now you thought he might be in the oxbow, right? But when you set up, he was actually coming from a little bit different spot.
Yeah, he was. So I didn't really notice this when I was sitting in the, or scouting my way in there. I noticed when I got up in the stand, there was two oxbows essentially that came into one little area right there. And I kind of was assuming like, oh, if he's in this, I was thinking in my head, like I need to set up to where I can shoot both these oxbows. And then there was a little pond that was kind of came off the river. Like, sometimes the river will puddle up, right? There was a pond right there that kind of pinched down. So it was a perfect spot, but there was only one tree and it was half dead. And I mean, it wasn't, I was only 2 sticks in the air.
That was that girl's tree for sure.
Yeah. But there was some brush and stuff around it that helped conceal me. But then when I got up in the stand, I started looking around and there was like a little island that I kind of was thinking, oh, they could bed out there too. Is an island just in the middle of the river bottom grass. And that's what he came out of there. It's probably 100 yards from where I was sitting.
And still, I think that even if them being in that island,
I
think you had the right setup, because if a buck's bedding in there someplace else, in my opinion, at that time frame that we were there, before he goes out to those fields, he's going to check those oxbows.
Yeah,
he's either going to be in one of those oxbows or he's going to check them for does. He's going to walk past that. Yeah. I wouldn't doubt it if you looked around, if there's scrapes right there, or some sign that he was checking for those for does.
Yep, I'd say he was probably going to. He's probably bedding that little, because that island didn't have trees. It was just like brushy crap. So I couldn't go sit out in the island. I mean, he would have busted out of there. And I'm saying he just got up and moseyed his way to those oxbows to kind of, what do you want to say, stage in there, or just to check for does or whatever he was doing, before he would take our head back to the west or whatever direction it was, and then go across the road at night and go up into those cornfields, those cut cornfields, and feed with all the other.
Where the average person would have made the big mistake doing what you're doing is they would have looked around too much. They would have got their scent all over. They would have walked over here, walked over there, tried to find a sign or whatever. Where you based it mainly on the terrain, right?
Yeah.
There's a buck there someplace. He's coming through here. And you looked at it and you said, well, if he's coming through here, and if he's here, he has to be right here. And you put your faith in terrain, not in sign. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
obviously you got a trail or two you're looking at, but there's trails
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
So you're,
Yeah.
but you're looking at the terrain of the land and the funnel it's going to put them through and where you should be bedding and thinking about that instead of looking for the sign. The sign you had was you saw a buck come in and out of there. That was a
Yeah.
shooter. And that's the
Yeah.
biggest piece of sign you can have.
Yeah. He, there was some rubs there that like kind of hinted to me that, I mean, he walked down the exact trail that rub was on. And that's the one I kind of was like, okay, a buck's using this or did use it, you know, because they could kind of walk anywhere in that grass. I mean, they really could if they wanted to. But yeah, that one was probably the best, I guess, thought out type one.
So
Now,
the biggest piece of the puzzle on these public land or these trips, especially when you're on public land, is you got to hunt where there's a buck. You got to hunt where there's something that you shoot. And a lot of times it's a guessing game. And just because you see big buck sign does not necessarily guarantee there's one there in daylight or that buck that made that sign is still there in that spot.
Yep.
So that seeing the buck is really important. And I look back at my hunts too on trips and on travels. A lot of the big stuff that I've shot, I've seen it before I shot it, just like you.
Yeah.
Where a lot of it isn't that random setting up on sign and stuff, like a lot of people think.
Yeah. None of the deer I shot this year were. I mean, none of them. Not even my Indiana buck I shot wasn't. I mean, that's my home state, so I can, you know, I'm monitoring those areas better anyway. So I knew he was there, but, yeah. And then in Ohio, I actually had an encounter with a bigger buck than I shot the first evening or the second evening I was there, I guess, first full day. And I didn't see that one beforehand, but there was just some, you know, real obvious, really fresh rubs and stuff coming out of a bedding point. Man, I wish I'd have killed that deer. That was a big deer. It was bigger than what I shot, but, the Ohio buck though, that was, I mean, you know, in the rut there, if you aren't seeing deer, like you just need to get down and move around till you see them. You know, those deer they had no care in the world or no idea I was there. They were focused on something else. And
I get that a lot from people who will tell me that, why are you moving around so much? You need to sit in a tree and hunt. You know, this isn't, you know, you're not hunting. Well, you got to find deer. You got to get on them.
Yeah.
You got to go out and find deer. And there isn't big bucks everywhere you look.
Right.
You know, you can go learn an area and learn some really good spots. You can learn where there's some good funnels. You can find some good overlook spots. And you can go back and kill deer in those spots. But in a lot of cases, the stuff we're going into blind.
You're right.
You don't know if there's a deer there. You got to hop around. You got to move and go to them. And I really want to try and kill the biggest buck I can find. So, you know, I might shoot one that's 140 or 130 or something, but I think in my mind, I don't really want to go after those bucks. I can even see one or know about one, and I kind of want to go after something bigger, especially if I believe I can do it. Like if I'm seeing sign or something that there's something bigger around, and it just that gets to be something that holds you back. I mean, you know, you can hold out too much and you don't kill nothing, but it's all a matter of what you want to get out of it for everybody. But man, I come off of a season like I had, and I want to do some killing this year.
Yeah. Oh, I bet you will this year. Yeah, you do most years.
Right. If I come off of a bad season, I always have a good season the next year.
I feel like you've been scouting more than you did last year too.
Yeah.
Just like
I've always seen a direct result where I do way better on the years I scout a lot for myself. When I'm selfish enough to really put some time in for myself, I do a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of out of state hunts, I've been debating in my head about Iowa versus Kansas. I think me and you both could have the option to go to either one. Are you thinking about going to both, or are you going to pick one and go to?
I think I'm going to go to Iowa this year. I think I'm going to pick Kansas next year.
Yeah.
And I think if I fill up in Iowa, great. Then I can hop around some other states and stuff and do some other things. But I don't want to get two big bucks tags and really
Spread
spend all
thin.
my time in one state or the other state and waste one of the tags, because
Yeah.
both of those states are really good big buck destinations.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I want to keep those two different years because they both take points.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think
It wouldn't be a bad idea for me and you to go into Kansas together too.
right.
So
Yeah.
we should just wait a year in Kansas.
I think that's kind of what I had in my mind. I'm excited about Iowa. I kind of like to go make a trip out there this spring or summer and do a little scouting around.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a big deal. Not a big deal, but you know what I mean. It's like it's kind of important to me. That tag is. It's a once in a 5 or 6 years deal, and that's it. I don't know. Have you done much like spring scouting out of state? Have you?
A little bit. I've done some in Iowa. Now that you say that, back I used to hunt a little more. I used to hunt the southwestern corner a lot around Creston and Red Oak, those areas. I didn't do much public down there, but in those days, you could just knock on anybody's door to give you permission. They'd say, "Oh, you're bow hunting? Knock yourself out."
Right.
It would, yeah. And I did fairly well down there.
I was wondering about that. Something else I was going to ask you about out of state hunting. Do you ever bring trail cameras with you and like use them when you're out of state often?
Yeah, but usually, when you're done, just down there for a week or so, the intel doesn't fast enough. But if you got down there, did a scouting trip, put some cameras out, and then picked them up when you came back and sat in your hotel room or whatever and monitored what you're looking at and stuff, I think it would help out a lot. I think a cell cam could help too, but I think even that, the intel's too slow. You get the intel and you're hunting someplace else, you see it, and you're like, oh, okay, I can move over there tomorrow. And I think you're pulling yourself away from what you were on. I think you're going to get pictures of bucks all over the place. But I think they can help, but you can't let it screw with your mind,
Yeah.
And I do think, too, you got a limited time. You certainly don't want to be chasing trail cameras.
Yeah.
If you have the intel before you get there, I think you're probably better off. I think the intel of a 10-day hunt or a 7-day hunt or something down there, I think that by the time you develop a pattern, it's almost time to go home. I mean,
right.
And you're chasing cameras.
I didn't bring any with me on any of my hunts this year, but
it depends on how much you put into it. I mean, if you're going to go down there in the summer and stuff in glass and stuff like that, then
throw some cameras
up on a spot isn't a bad idea.
Yeah, I think I'll definitely do that if I go down there. I did have, when we were in Fort McCoy that late season, last year, I guess, or 2 years ago now. I did have a cell camera out in a certain spot and got a picture of a big buck, right before dark or right after dark, I guess. I didn't kill the thing, obviously, but that was the one time that it at least clued me in on one. But then again, it's like I was there putting that camera out. He probably walked by and smelled and probably wasn't going to come,
That's a big part of it. I mean, it's almost like you've already hunted that spot. Then you get the buck on the camera. If you put it on your 10-day hunt, put it out on day 1. Day 3, that buck walks by and goes past the camera in daylight. You're like, okay, I'm going over and hunting. Well, at the same time he walked by, he smelled that you were there.
Right.
So is he going to come back tomorrow?
Right.
So that's what I mean about chasing cameras. But if you have that camera up for intel long before you get there and you're not going over there, I think that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Even if you use a regular camera, you could get to that camera to hunt in the evening.
Yeah.
Check the pictures for the last 5-6 days or something, and then say, well, I'm moving to a different spot or I'm hunting here.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of what Gary and the Brads do when they're here. They set out cameras now until April, and then when they get here in October, that's when they start kind of bounce around in the morning there and trying to figure out where they're going to set at in the evenings, based on those cameras. It's worked out good for them. So, anyway, there was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember now. Oh, and maybe cameras work a little better, like if you are in places like Iowa or like private land in Iowa or out in Kansas where maybe the deer aren't quite as pressured, but like if you're in Wisconsin where, you know, or Michigan or someplace like that where they're a little more skittish of humans. But at the same time, a deer is a deer.
Mm-hmm.
So Tim, here's a fun fact for you, Dan. I want to see what you think about this. Tim is coming to hunt Indiana this year, and he was doing some research. And I didn't know this. I don't ever research anything in Indiana for some reason. I guess I just don't.
Tim Hinkie?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wife's putting them out?
Come on, Dan. Yes, I think so. He looked up the information on Indiana, and I think in 2021, or maybe even it was last year. There was 22 bucks killed on public land in my county with a bow and arrow. It's not very many, is it?
No. Mm-mm.
And then I think there was like 31 of them killed with a crossbow on public land.
I can say that that was the most impressive thing about me hunting down there by you was I wasn't running to anybody, even in rut. There just wasn't hunters out there. There's big pieces of public land and hardly anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, so it was a pleasant hunt next to what I'm used to here.
Yeah. Yeah, because he was saying like you'll have like 300 or 400 killed up there in a county, you know, depending on the county and the. Anyway, you ran into a out of stater that knew who you were, didn't you? Whenever you were here with Eric.
Yeah.
From like somewhere out east, I think he was from Virginia or something.
And he wasn't even from Indiana. He was hunting from some state way out east or something. Yeah.
Yeah. He was hunting like what did he say? Like Zach Farrenball. What did he say? He was hunting on the ground or something. He's just walking around.
He was doing the Zach Farrenball.
Is that what he said? He'd walk through the bedding area. We'd sit. Dan was hunting.
Go down there and hunt, and he's telling me, I just walked through all that. Talking with my bow. I was like,
oh. You'll have that.
I didn't see one, but you could see where they ran. I'm like, all right.
He was probably having fun though.
Oh yeah. Well, it's good that I ran into him because I knew where not to go, kind of thing. But,
yeah.
I did get a really good sit in there. No buck came out, but man, I had a really good setup. I found in there. I think I showed you that spot.
Yeah.
You should keep that in the back of your mind. I like that spot.
You talking about back up into the kind of the hub where all the points come down?
Right in that river bottom where you go, where you cross that little river bottom back there.
Instead of going left or right.
Left. And just not far in there. I mean, and then that little bottom spreads out into a hub.
Yeah.
And a bunch of points on the hub. And the buck sign drops right down that hub. And it's just a matter of being in that spot in the right day. I mean, I like that spot a lot. I found a few real good spots when I was up there, and it just.
I threw a camera in there.
Did you?
Ago. Yep, over scrape.
Nice.
So I'll let it soak for a while, or till whenever you guys come back in. But we'll see. Anyway,
we got to figure out a challenge for this year too with Iowa. I don't know what we're going to do.
I know. I was thinking about that too. Kind of.
Either we can do it before Iowa opens, or we can do it just plan it for after rut. But we got to do a challenge.
Yeah. Where do you think you want to do it at?
I don't know. We'll get some ideas from the peanut gallery.
Yeah, right.
But
are you wanting to go to like a big buck state, or are you wanting to?
I don't know. I'd like to kill something. We've been, really, really to a fault. I always believe I can just go anywhere and just kill one. You know, and I try to pick hard places, and that hasn't been working out so well. I mean, I still think it's pretty reasonable that we kill one in a hard place. I mean, you've been doing it. It's just a matter of you're not going to have as much success, you know. But I still want to do those. But I want to kill some deer this year. I mean, I don't know. If it was going to be later in the year, I wouldn't mind going south. Everybody's always asking us south, like Florida or something, or you know,
Mhm.
or Louisiana or Mississippi or something, someplace
Yeah.
where, you know, we got a
I
little
like
bit of,
how I like how you just had a whole spiel about how you want to go somewhere where you kill a nice one. We need to go there, and then you go, let's go to Florida.
that's it's in me. It's in me. It's
I
in
know.
me.
I know.
But yeah, I know.
Oklahoma would be
You know
cool.
where would be nice if I wasn't so worried about that Iowa tag is that would it be nice if you go out east, you know, like um Massachusetts or something.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I've never been out that way. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. We gotta go out where those guys were like
Maine would
Josh
be
from it.
cool. I mean, but Maine's
Yeah.
another hard place. You kill big bucks, but it would be hard.
Yeah. New York. Upstate
Yeah,
New
New
York
York.
would be
New York
fun.
is a tough state. That'd probably
Um,
make Michigan look easy.
yeah. Um, we go out to we could do it with the untamed guys and go to like Virginia or West Virginia. Those guys are always on
I
pretty
don't
nice
know.
deer.
I don't know. I was supposed to do a hunt with them, and I don't know. We've been talking about it for 3 years, and it never happened. So
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah, I
Were you
reached
gonna
out
go?
to him again this year, and I was like, "Hey, we're gonna go lion hunting, and we're gonna ever do that?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm just figuring it out right now. I'll get back to you." And now they're out lion hunting. Here I sit.
I'll clip that. I'll clip that, and
Are you guys listening?
I'll tag him in it. I'll tag him in it. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Where are they at lion hunting? You know?
I don't know exactly where they go. I think they go to, I don't know. I'm probably guessing, but Arizona, Utah, that area.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think that's
I was
could be out there.
binge watching their bear hunts the other day. Man, they got some really cool bear hunts
Yeah.
with the hounds.
Yeah.
It would actually be fun. I mean, um, they will chase those bears down, chase them around, jump in front of them. The bears will jump over the top of them. Man, it's no wonder they get so many views. Holy cow!
Yeah.
That their footage is pretty
Entertaining.
good. It's pretty good. It's entertaining. Yeah, it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Anybody hasn't watched the Untamed, you should check them out.
Yeah. They kill big deer too. Josh killed a giant this year out there. Out
I haven't
over
watched any of their deer footage. You know how I
I,
am with hunting
yeah,
videos.
well, I'll be honest with you, I didn't watch it either, but I saw the thumbnail and stuff of it. It was
Mm.
kind of a big, non-typical looking thing. He killed a big one in Kentucky too. I saw great
Mm.
big one on
Yeah,
Christmas Eve or something.
they killed one when we did the challenge. That
Did
Josh
they?
is a killer. Yeah,
Yeah.
those guys are killers.
Mm-hmm. All right, you want to answer some questions? We've been on here for an hour now.
Sure.
Um, if you guys have any questions, you can leave them in the comment section here. We'll try to get to them.
So Elizabeth left you a donation, said she had to go to
Yeah.
bed because she was falling asleep.
Oh, geez, we were boring her with fishing stories.
Yeah, so then you didn't even get to thank her yet.
I'll get to them. I'm going to scroll down through here. I got a few donations, but someone asked, what's the best spot to find sheds
That's probably a question for you.
in the woods? I always tell people that. Like, I found them everywhere. I don't, bedding areas, food sources. It's I've always had a hard time like putting my finger on like this is where they're at all the time. It's always just like I found one driving down the road the other day in the ditch.
I think the places that I find them the most is probably feeding areas and bedding areas. I think the travel trips in between, not so much. But right in the bedding areas and right in the feeding areas, especially the feeding areas, you find a spot where all the deer are feeding.
Be laying everywhere out there.
And a lot of times you'll find several antlers in one little field or something.
Yep. You gotta think about where the deer are, and that's where they're going to be at this time of year. So if you're not, you're not in the deer, you're not seeing deer tracks, you're not, all that stuff, then probably not going to find any.
That's what I was saying. You're probably a better person to ask. You do more shed hunting. I go out, walk past sheds and go look for where they live.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if shed hunting is fun, but you gotta be careful. You can waste a lot of time doing it if you're not, my shed hunting is usually very. I'm looking for like specific deer, or I'm, stumble upon them in the you just shouting around. I have like some weird sixth sense about deer antlers too. Like
the hell you do, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Every
why,
place
but
we're out, I mean, go ahead and say it. Every place we go, we could be in the middle of nowhere, and his head will just spin around like on a swivel, and he'll go, "There's a shed over there," and he'll walk 852 yards and find a shed that you can't even see until you're 2 feet from it.
I found one. I found one
Crazy.
walking out. I found one. I think I found one on almost every trip I went on. I found one in late season in Fort McCoy walking out in the dark. I just like I don't know what something made me like shine my light to my right, and I looked over and I shined it right on the shed. Just
Yeah,
a little 4 point
we're
star.
sleeping, and all of a sudden he jumps out of his cot. Head starts spinning around. He runs out the door, comes in his underwear with a shed antler.
I'm like them shed dogs you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, he's a shed dog. We should get you a
Uh,
shirt that says shed dog.
yeah, I was driving down the road the other day and I was talking. I was actually talking to Tim, and I said, "Oh, I got to go. I think I just saw a shed on the side of the highway." And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, I swear I did." I turned around and there was one laying there. It was as big as I mean, just laying up there, tines up. It just dropped it because it was there's blood on the pedicle and stuff, and it was
About 4 or 5 years ago, I saw a pretty nice one on the side of the road,
uh-huh.
and I just took note where it was, and I went home and I posted. There's a nice shed laying on the side of the road at this intersection. It said where it was,
Uh-huh.
and a bunch of people were like, "I'm gonna go get it." And nobody did. Next day, I go by, it's there again. I
Really?
posted, still there, and I
Yeah.
think it took like 4 or 5 days before somebody actually went to that intersection and picked it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was laying like in the gravel in the on the side of the road or whatever. We actually,
Mm-hmm.
my dad, we got permission to coyote hunt and stuff on the the place it was would have the buck would have ran to,
Mm-hmm.
or been going to, but we got to talk to him about deer hunting. Um, anyway,
So you're gonna be
what's the
out
big?
there in November coyote hunting out of your tree stand?
Yeah. I'll have to, yeah, my dad get a kick out of that. I'd tell him. I'll have to tell him that. What's the biggest shed you found, Dan? Have you found any like real
Mm,
giant ones?
yeah, I've got a few decent ones. I don't think I got any that are just absolute monsters, but I got a few that are like I don't want to put a score on them, but one 4 point that's just gigantic,
Yeah.
and I got one side off of my 15 pointer that was that would score pretty high, and a lot of a lot of them that are if they're on a buck they'd be 150 or 160. I
Right.
don't think I
Right.
have too many that would go Boone and Crockett or anything, even though I've seen deer a lot like that a lot. But there's a lot more people looking for those sheds, and I'm not. And whenever there's
Right.
something really big around here, there's a lot of people scouring the area where it lives for those sheds.
Yeah.
It's funny because I don't run into a lot of people hunting them. It's like they got
Hmm.
no faith they could kill the thing, but they
They like to pick up the antlers.
yeah they think
Well,
they
I
can
mean,
find.
there was a guy that a certain piece of public around here. He's like me and him for the longest time, Dan, were the only two guys that would shed hunt this particular area. And we got to kind of develop a friendship over it. And I hunted it. And he had no interest at all hunting it. I mean, he just like, I got my private farm. That's where I hunt. He's like, he's not going to give me the sheds, but he's like, I'll show you the ones I find so you can hunt them. I'm like, all right. He found one a few years back on this piece of public around here. I shouldn't even. It scored 87 inches.
Wow, that's nice.
Oh, I mean, it was a giant. Um,
Yeah, that one real big non-typical. I'm sure you've seen the videos of me shining that one really monster non-typical.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Some local kid contacted me. He had found both sheds, the one you're laying in the field right where I shine them. I
Really.
was going to get the story from him, but I didn't get his contact info, and he never got back to me. And I also
Hmm.
the guy who there's a guy who found the antlers off the bear bait buck the year I was going to kill him. He contacted me
Oh,
recently. I have his contact info. I was going to do something with him, go over, film him, or maybe we
that'd be
could have him on
cool.
a show on here.
That'd be
And have.
really cool to get those antlers and just to talk about that buck again.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. Anyway, I'm like you. I found a whole bunch of really nice deer, but never really anything, super super giant.
Hmm.
Probably something that would be maybe close to 170, but not. I don't think so. Um, Josh, thanks for the donation, man. I appreciate it. Um, Also, John Dollar, thank you as well, man. Hope things are going well down there in Mississippi for you. If you guys got questions, you can ask him. Um, we got all kinds of shed questions. Does the weather affect when bucks shed? I feel like I have a lot of bucks holding antlers longer this season.
Oh yeah, I think stress makes antlers drop. So in the wild, they have more stress. Now I talked in depth with a couple of people that have deer farms.
Yeah,
Who told me that their deer drop almost to the day every year. So they might have one that drops in January, one that drops in December, and another one that drops in March. And every year that particular deer will drop almost to the day within 24 hours of when it dropped the year before. Um, which is uncanny because the one guy I talked to had detailed notes. He kept track of all that stuff.
yeah,
Um, but in the wild, it's different. An injury will make them drop earlier. Extreme cold and ice and stuff, starvation will make them drop faster. So, like, I can remember when we had a real bad ice storm in Wisconsin in December. Everything was coated with ice, and the deer couldn't eat anything. I mean, there was just a coating of ice, and it stayed on the stuff for days. Um, and as a matter of fact, it was really hard for them to walk. It was hard to walk anywhere. Everything was just coated with ice, and those deer all dropped their antlers in December, and then they had a doe season after that.
yeah,
But we had very few deer that even had antlers left at the end of December that year. They will drop if they're stressed. So
yeah,
obviously, a mild year this year, you're going to have more that hold them longer.
yeah.
But there will always be some that drop early, stress or not. Not.
Hmm. Yep. I'm seeing the kind of the same thing here. They seem to be holding. Uh, Most of the deer are still have both sides this right now around here. Like Dan said earlier, thanks Elizabeth. Sounds like you're sleeping, but you'll see it tomorrow. Appreciate it. All right. Goomer22, he asked, Josh, what area of Kentucky have you hunted and why don't you like it? um, I've hunted all over Kentucky now.
Why do you hate Kentucky?
I don't. Hate's probably the wrong word. Um, I think so. I used to go to Kentucky when I was young all the time because I live down here close. It's close to where I live, and it's affordable for me to go down there. So back when I was younger, I'd go there a lot, and I didn't do as well as I probably would if I would spend some time there now. And then I always went in September because that's before our season would open, and it's always like I always end up getting like bit by a whole bunch of ticks, and I'd have chiggers when I got home. Um, and the humidity levels down there are real high, and it's hot, and
You don't
that's
like
why.
hot weather. I've noticed that about you. You wouldn't go to Ohio when it was hot either. And I was like, just go there and kill a deer. Like, it's hot.
Well, I didn't have a set time I had to be there. I thought I might as well wait until it's good, until the weather's nice. Um, but no, I don't. I'll hunt in the hot if I'm hunting. Um, no, Kentucky's fine. It's a good place to go. I prefer Nebraska early season like that. Um, but yeah, as far as where I've hunted at, I've hunted everywhere in Kentucky. I guess I haven't hunted like the southeast side of it, but um, pretty much everywhere else. Dan, have you ever been to Kentucky? Yes, as
I
that
have
as
not
well.
hunted Kentucky, but I did a scouting workshop in the land between the lakes there one
Yep,
time. Interesting territory.
yep, yeah, yeah. I've never been to land between the lakes, but I've done a lot of like map scouting it and thought about going here and there. Just seems like a real popular area.
There was a
I
lot of
mean,
pressure. That's what I
yeah,
saw. A lot of pressure.
um, yeah, and Kentucky's kind of getting that way where there's getting to be a lot of pressure in Kentucky. I think um, a lot of the um, you see a lot of like big velvet bucks getting shot in Kentucky, and I think that's a lot of people are, you know, going down there
Yeah,
now.
looking for that.
It's kind of the first
Well,
Midwestern state
even
that opened.
yourself. I mean, look at yourself. You're sitting in Indiana and you can't hunt. I mean, you might as well go down there when you got no hunting going on by you
Right.
before the season starts. I mean, it's an attraction. You know, I always thought Wisconsin was missing out. I mean, Wisconsin could, in an ideal situation, I mean, they want more deer killed. They could open like the third week of August, or you could shoot velvet bucks and just not open does, because that's the whole reason they don't open early, is because they don't want to kill does.
Right.
Have a buck only season until like this, second week of September. So 3 weeks of bucks only at the beginning, and then mid-December close does again, because then the bucks are shedding and you're killing bucks.
Yeah.
But then they could go all the way through January with bucks, and as
Yeah.
long as you're giving the guy the one tag, well, why not let him have that much time to hunt?
Yeah.
I think it'd be a lot cooler. But a lot of these states limit you. I mean, some states. I mean, like look at Michigan, with that October 1st opener, then October 15th gun start. They got 15 days of bow hunting.
Yeah.
That's probably the main reason people don't shoot a lot of big bucks there with bows. When they have 15 days, and then the gun season's the rut. Basically.
Yeah. Wait, say that again.
Oh no, wait! I'm sorry, November 15th.
Yeah, I think I think.
Yeah, they have a
scratch,
month and a half.
That. They're the same as us, pretty much.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. You start out when the deer are already kind of on your lull, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not until about mid-October that they start moving good.
Yeah.
We when we open up in like I think it's like the second Saturday or something of September, when we open up, those deer are really moving well. They're still in their summer pattern for about that first week and a half or so. And case in point, a lot of my very, very biggest bucks came from opening week. But you start getting into that October, and you start seeing, very few big bucks moving very far in daylight. And it doesn't pick back up till like October 15th. So, I mean, you kind of miss that good window of hunting, but you can go to one of these other states and do that. And you did that in Nebraska last year. I mean, you went up there and capitalized on that early portion of hunting. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, if your state's not open yet, go someplace where it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll hunt Kentucky many times again. I just, just need me and Kentucky needed a break. Do what?
Going back to the theme of this whole show, do you do better on your out-of-state hunts than you do back at home? I think to some degree, in some ways, I do better. I hunt better on road trips. I mean, obviously,
you definitely don't have the distractions.
Didn't show that, but I don't have the distractions from back home.
Yeah,
I'm not worrying about what's going on at work, at home, with my kids, with my wife, or anything. I'm just hunting.
Yeah,
and that's just
distractions is probably the wrong world.
Hunting is on my mind.
Yeah, distractions are probably the wrong word. It's like, but that's what you're there for. You're just hunting,
right. Well, it's distractions. I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just distracting you from your goal.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you shouldn't be you're thinking about your wife and
your
kids and stuff. I'm just saying that stuff, gets you going out late. You don't get the scouting in because you're, what you got going on at home, what you got, So that was my question. When you're on a road trip and your focus is on hunting, to some degree, I think you.
Yeah, it's probably true. I mean, that. I probably have more like confidence if like you had to tell me, if I could spend a week straight here in Indiana and I had to kill a buck, I'd probably tell you I'd rather do it here than, going to, Illinois or someplace I've never, spent much time in. But
if you're going into new areas by your house, I think you'd do worse.
Yeah, maybe so.
But knowing the areas is what gets you on the bucks by home.
Right.
Having done the homework, the scouting, and I guess that's the same with me.
Yeah. Right. All right. This is actually a pretty good question because a lot of people have never went out of state. How do you even start to plan an out of state hunt?
I mean, if you're me and Josh, you go, where do you want to go? Massachusetts, New York.
You hear us sit here and talk about it on the show.
I don't know. Flip a coin. Let's go to Wyoming.
Mhm. I'd go out there. I want to go to Idaho and hunt in the mountains. Yeah, I think I think some people overthink it. It's not actually as hard and as intimidating as you would maybe think in your mind when you're first going out of state. There's always some you can look at. There's some obvious states that are better than others, and this kind of and this and that. If you want to go to some place like Iowa, you need to start thinking about that. 5 or 6 years from now. Same with certain parts of Kansas. You got to wait a couple years to go hunt there too. So you got to start putting in points and that all that. But yeah, just find you some what looks good on a map on public land and go. I think that's the biggest thing is going.
You can just in a lot of cases the DNR biologist that the state hires will help you. You can call them up and say, hey, where is good lands where I could hunt? If I wanted to come to your state and hunt, where would you recommend? And those guys can be really helpful. And the times I have called them, I mean, some places are better than others, but I've had biologists actually tell me, oh, you know what you might like? We got this property over here that's opening up, this August, and not a lot of people know about it. And but it's going to be open to public hunting this year, and nobody's hunted there before. It's been a park or something. And they'll tell you that info. They'll tell you where to go. They also, the biologists for the state will have stats on which properties have the oldest bucks.
Yeah.
Things like that. Now, the reason I said they don't all help you out, I know that like in Michigan, when we went up there for the winter, those biologists up there would not help us with where the deer migrations are and stuff like that. Because if they told everybody, I think, or showed them the maps of where the exact trails are, it could probably be devastating to the herd. But in most places, that's not the situation, and they want to help you. They want you to come out there. They want you to spend your money because they get paid by you coming there. Your money is what funds them, so they are very helpful. So if you're really planning on an area or a state or something, and you're thinking about it, first thing I would do is go to the DNR website for that state. Look up on there who the biologists are. Get the contact info. Send them an email. And tell him you're interested in hunting the state and want to know, if he has any recommendations where to go. You don't know what properties to start on or whatever. For me, I mean, I'll look at the counties that are the top counties and stuff, and then I'll start looking at the public land properties there. I generally try to avoid the really big, well-known properties, and I try to look for the small ones that are nearby. I look for ones that are hard access. A lot of cases where they don't have parking and stuff like that. It's kind of a hassle to get into them. Mm-hmm. Those are usually the better ones. Or the ones that are so gigantic that people just tend to have the human trait of going to deer looking spots. And then you can find the little overlooked spots. So the real gigantic ones, but the medium sized ones that are well known, those are hard properties. I mean, all your land borders will be hunted up against the crops and stuff like that. So kind of looking around at the smaller ones. When you get to an area, you can have an idea where you want to go to. And it doesn't mean you necessarily have to hunt there. I mean, I'll have a whole bunch of spots mapped out. I know you do this too, Josh. You find a whole bunch of properties in an area, and you go there and you might have some ideas where you want to go, but you go drive around these spots. You look at the access, you get a feel for them, and you kind of look if they're really what you saw in the maps and stuff like that before you even dive in.
Right. Yep. Goomer says, go to the Daniel Boone National Forest. Tons of public there. I've hunted there in Kentucky. That would be pretty cool. It's kind of mountainous terrain in there. Frank asked, what's a signpost rub? It's a tree that's been rubbed many, many years. A lot of times you'll see where the tree's grown and you can see the old rubs are growing up with the tree.
Yeah. I think a lot of times it's a rub that's in a position where trails cross. So major trails through time, it's usually like two terrain features might meet, and deer meet it from two different angles, and they mark there to because I think a lot of those rubs are to send a message to other animals, either to other bucks or to does. So it's a marker.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But like,
what I do find funny is I see most of those signpost rubs that are big. You'll see a tree stand right over the top of them, and it's like a lot of times those are way out in the middle of terrain where there wouldn't be a deer in daylight.
Yeah. Yep. But what a that kind of rub, you'll see little rubs on just random trees. Sometimes those are just rubs. Whereas a post sign rub is something that deer have rubbed for years and years and years. Yeah.
And that's the one that most people put cameras over, and which is a lot of nighttime pictures in a lot of cases. Because occasionally, just like a scrape or anything else, you can find one that's in the right position, and you get a lot of daylight stuff.
Right. Richard, thanks for the donation, man. He's starting to compete with Elizabeth.
Looking out for you.
I know it. Anthony, I know you got a question about saddle hunting. We've kind of covered that a whole bunch. You can, if you look back onto the clips, you can find that. Tyler, I will be at the workshop this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. I'll be there both days. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. I'm kind of excited about that.
These guys are lucky you weren't there last week, so
yeah, I guess.
I'm probably just going to sit back and have a Coke and let you run it.
Oh, geez. You don't want to do that. You guys carry your bow when in-season scouting. It's a good idea to carry your bow.
I usually don't, but it is a good idea. I mean, there's a lot of times when I could kill a deer and I don't have a bow with me. But I'm a little different than Josh. I think when I was Josh's age, I wanted to kill him more. Now I want to kill him in a certain way.
Yeah.
I want to kill him.
Yeah. I'll leave mine in the truck a lot of times.
If I have it with me, if it's in my hand and one comes running by, I'm shooting it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you.
Yeah.
But that is not my goal, and it's not something I really want to do. I want to shoot a buck on in a chess game, hunting them.
Yeah,
it would take a pretty big one to shoot it if it just came trotting up to me while I holding the bow.
Right. Yep. Let's see here. Here's an interesting thought. Sorry. Do you think unlimited number of cell cams should be allowed on public? I think they should limit that.
I don't care what they do. I don't think that there should be a limit. Personally, I don't see a need for it, at least not yet. There are cameras all over the place. They're all over the woods. They don't really bother me. I don't think they're helping the people too much that are using them. I think they're helping a little bit if they're not very knowledgeable, but I think they're actually helping me in a way that I know where these people are hunting and I know where they're forcing the deer into. Every time I see those cell cams, I can write off some areas. Just really, those deer are still going to be there. They're just going to be forced into certain areas, and I don't think they're really hurting that much. I think it's in people's heads.
Yeah.
Now I can change my mind if it got, say, the number of cell cams out there was 4 times more than it is now.
Right. You get out of hand.
I'd probably be starting to look that way.
Yeah. I think they'd have to get a little more affordable, for that to happen.
They're getting there though.
Yeah, they are, but they're still
$50 cell cams,
Yeah. They're still, you got to pay for the plans and all that stuff, that adds up. If some guy wants 50 of them, you're going to have a pretty large bill at the end of the month.
Yeah.
For a typical public land hunter, most guys that are hunting public, there's a reason they don't own a big farm and all that. But thanks, man, for the $2 donation. I'm not sure what your real name is, but EBJS 2007. Appreciate it, man.
That's his real first name.
Sounds like some Elon Musk must have named you or something. Robert asked if I'm going traditional next season, and did Dan get his bow repaired? I'll shoot my my longbow next season a little bit. I'll also hunt with my compound too.
I did not repair my bow yet, but I will. I just got to put a new rest on it. I got the rest. I've just been busy, and I'm not hunting no more. And I'm probably going to pick up a new Brian bow this year anyways. So And at that point, I'll probably put the rest on this bow, and I'll probably do a giveaway or something, and I'll use a new one.
Yep. I got my new one in the mail the other day. You got to get on to Mitch.
It should probably be nicer to me if I'd actually would get the bow fixed and hunt with it. And probably watching it right now going, damn right.
All right, Dan, here's a pretty good question for you. Ethan Hunter asked, how do swamp bucks use the wind coming out of bedding?
They don't. I think they come out and they go straight towards their food or their does or their water or whatever they're heading to, with no regard to the wind when they leave bedding. Now, take that with a grain of salt. I think that they're a little more cautious if the wind's not in their favor. But when you look at a bedding area, the trails that come out of the bedding area, the heavy trails are the trails that come out in the evening. And when they go into the beds in the morning, they tend to slip to the downwind side, smell the beds, and then go in. And they're not really on as much of set trails, especially the mature bucks, at least from my observations. So it's harder to hunt them around bedding in the mornings. It's easy. In the morning, I would be a little further back before they start spinning around downwind while they're still on the trails that are marked. But when they come out of the bedding, they tend to head down those marked trails, those heavy trails coming out of the bedding that leave the bedding.
There you go, Ethan. Joey asked, what is a leeward ridge?
The downwind side.
Yep.
So if the wind blows over the top of a ridge, the side the wind is blowing over the top is leeward. The side of the wind is blowing into is windward.
Yep.
So deer prefer the leeward side usually for bedding and for cruising during rut.
All right. Are you having any other workshops after this weekend, Dan? Someone asked.
I don't know. I was going to, but now it's starting to look pretty difficult. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh, here's someone asked. Horn Hunter asked, Josh, would you like to see Indiana's gun season pushed later? They actually sent us a thing in the mail the other day, and the questions that they were asking kind of acted like they were going to do that. They had it was like 10 questions, and it was all essentially about if the reasons we think gun season should either be split up into 2 different seasons or shortened or moved back to the first week of December.
What do you got now?
It's like it's like the second weekend of November.
You get a weekend?
No, we get 3 weekends.
So you got 3 weeks or just 3 weekends?
3 weekends. Straight? Yeah, straight.
Okay. Yeah, that's a bit long.
Pretty long. Yeah.
That's a bit long. So we get 1 week.
Right.
So that consists of 2 weekends. So it's Saturday through Sunday, the week of Thanksgiving. And I think that's plenty. Actually the second half of the week, there's nobody hunting anyways. After the first weekend, everybody's done, So.
Yep. I think it would definitely help Indiana. But it is what it is. It's working. It's not like I don't hate hunting Indiana.
You guys are only allowed $1 anyways. I don't see where it's hurting anything, I guess.
Yeah. It was interesting. I thought, maybe they're thinking about tinkering with stuff, I don't know.
Just as a bow hunter, I'd hate to see me with 3 weeks of it. We used to just have the 1 week, but now they've extended. They've got this doe season. They got a muzzle order season. They got a extended doe season. They got a holiday hunt. They got all kinds of crap. Just
it's always like that second weekend of November into that first weekend of whatever the 3 weekends after that is. December. It goes out early in December.
You got doe seasons and stuff too?
We did, but they took it away. So
that's a good thing they took it away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this year they didn't have it. Steve, thanks for the donation, man. He does have a question. So for early season opener, I should do that scouting now and leave them alone until I dive in. That's right on the. You hit the
Well, as
nail on
far
the
as
head
flip
there.
scouting, I would say yes. As far as
Yeah.
you could still observe from a distance. Still, you could still look for sign before the season to confirm they're in there without going in there. But if you're going to go look at the bedding, now is the time. If you're going to go look at the bedding and back out to a spot to set up, now is the time.
Yeah. All right. I'm kind of scrolling through here, see if we have any real pressing questions that we can't live without. Because we've been on here over an hour and a half now. Let's see. Geez, Elizabeth, you stayed up for us. Let's see here. Oh, no. Oh, Elizabeth says she has a couple bows she would give for a giveaway, Dan.
Wow, you don't have to do that. It's cool though.
Yeah. My wife used to shoot that Eva Shockey Bowtech bow, Elizabeth. It's a good women's bow. Let's see here. I think that's it, guys. Making sure we don't have any other donations. I need to get 2 questions, but I think we're good. I think we answered about all of them. Everybody, thanks for getting on tonight. And we got a special guest Thursday night that I think everybody's going to like. So get something to look forward to. Everybody have a good night, and we'll see you Thursday night.
Good night, everybody. Good night, Elizabeth.